when a pregnant golden retriever was rescued and brought to an animal shelter. A new employee named Grace decided to personally ensure it received proper care. The vet had already informed Grace that the puppies didn't look normal on the ultrasound. Nevertheless, on the day of delivery, Grace was completely shocked when the golden retriever gave birth to puppies that looked like cows. How could such a thing even happen? Grace woke up to a loud howling coming from downstairs. She knew that it was time. Luna was about to give birth. She jumped out of bed and rushed to the bed of the rescued golden retriever. They had already been through so much together, and seeing her in this kind of pain broke Grace's heart. But now was not the time to feel sorry for Luna, as Grace needed to be focused on helping deliver the puppies. She couldn't help herself from being curious. The vet had told her these would not be normal puppies, but what the hell would they be then? The puppy. It looked like a cow. What on God's green earth had Luna just given birth to? And what is Grace supposed to do now? When their first puppy finally started crowning after 2 hours of labor, Grace could not believe her eyes. The vet had warned her, but she never expected this. It's fairly common for dogs rescued from the streets to be pregnant when they arrive at a rescue station. On the streets, animals rely solely on their basic instincts for survival and reproduction. What is less common, however, is for rescue stations to have the necessary resources to handle pregnant dogs. This particular station had a vet they worked with, but the vet was not on site. So when a struggling pregnant golden retriever came in, they had no idea how to handle the situation. They were already very much understaffed, and this dog obviously needed a lot of attention. Could they handle her and all of the other tasks? Working with the dog would not just be until she gave birth either, because once she finally had her litter, there would be more work to do with the puppies. Additionally, one of the senior technicians felt that something was very off about this pregnancy and needed to be figured out promptly. For now, a lot of options as to how to deal with this situation were being discussed. Some possibilities were naturally more pleasant than others. They considered bringing the dog to another station and looking for another volunteer. However, they were also considering euthanizing her. It was unfortunate to have such a sad option on the table, but it had to be considered given how busy the station already was and how understaffed they were. The average staff member was really leaning towards euthanization. However, the big reason why this dog got the help and attention she needed was because of a relatively new and inexperienced employee at the rescue station named Grace. Grace had always been deeply fond of animals, especially dogs. From an early age, she knew her dream was to work with animals, and always envisioned becoming a veterinarian. She even began attending school to pursue that goal. However, her life goals changed after an experience she had while on a relief trip to Indonesia. In America, Grace mainly had just seen happy dogs in the excellent care of their respective owners. But this was not the case in Indonesia, where malnourished and often sick dogs were abandoned and wandering the streets everywhere she went. She hadn't even been there to help the dogs, but the people. But seeing all the unhappy dogs broke Grace's heart. When Grace returned home to the States, she started researching street dogs and how to help them. To her shock, she found out how many street dogs there even were. They weren't just present in the small town she'd grown up in, but were even more prevalent in the big city nearby. From that moment on, all Grace wanted to do was help these puppies. When she turned 18, she moved to Boston and applied to a rescue center for stray dogs. She was hired almost immediately at the station because it was understaffed. Grace was still full of hope and determination. During Grace's second week on the job, a pregnant golden retriever named Luna was brought in, and the team discussed how to handle her case. When euthanasia was mentioned as a possible option, Grace immediately decided to intervene. She couldn't just stand by and let a pregnant animal be euthanized because of convenience. Grace offered to work free overtime to get her regular duties done and give all of the extra care to Luna. The station head really appreciated Grace's offer and put Luna in full care of Grace. Grace decided she would take her home for the time being so she could keep an eye on her overnight. For the next couple of weeks, Grace traveled back and forth between her house and the station, working 2 jobs simultaneously. Luckily, she lived close to the station and had help from her roommate, who also liked dogs. Grace felt like she was helping, though it would only get more complicated from here. Other people working at the station did their best to help cover some of Grace's tasks to make her life a little easier and give her more time to care for Luna. They were moved by her dedication and compassion towards this dog. However, there was only so much they could do, as the station was understaffed again. Unfortunately, even with her colleagues' help, Grace was still struggling. Luna was not doing well in the last weeks of her pregnancy. Grace had to make multiple trips to the vet with Luna at the time she was caring for her. This, of course, only added more stress to the entire situation. All the trips to the vet cost Grace a lot of time and money. Deep down, she started to wonder if this was all worth it. What would become of Luna and her puppies after they were born? Grace didn't have the financial means to support them for an extended period. She tried to stay hopeful and avoid feeling too disheartened. Grace did her best to put all her worries about Luna's health and money in the back of her head. What was important right now was the health of Luna and her puppies. The doctor managed to keep Luna stable with the help of some medication, but was seemingly overly interested in the ultrasound. When checking on the puppies, the veterinarian could not make out much on the ultrasound. But from what he could see, he was nearly positive Luna had not been laying with another golden retriever, a Labrador, another dog, or anything close to that. The puppies looked strange, really strange. Grace was pretty sure that wasn't possible. However, the vet ended up showing the ultrasound pictures to a couple of colleagues, but no one could really put their finger on exactly what was off about these puppies. This began to worry Grace. Did it mean the puppies weren't healthy? She became increasingly concerned about how much money she was investing, especially if the puppies might not survive in the end. Seeing as Luna had been a street dog, she could have been impregnated by nearly anything that can breed with dogs. What was Grace going to be dealing with when these puppies were brought into this world? Would they even be puppies? Sorry for the interruption. Before we continue with the story, I kindly ask you to like the video and subscribe to this channel. It is very important for us. Thank you very much. Grace was pretty sure that wasn't possible, but the vet seemed so sure these were not dogs. Grace asked if the puppies, or whatever they would be, were healthy. The vet assured her that while the ultrasound looked weird, it did give a good indication that the pups were currently healthy. This was the most important thing for Grace, and she could find comfort in that despite everything else. After Grace brought Luna home from that vet visit, she knew it would only be a matter of days before Luna gave birth. Grace wisely took the days off from working at the shelter because she knew where her focus needed to be for now. Whatever the vet had seen, had Grace concerned enough to know she needed to be with Luna for this? During this time, Grace really started to feel herself bond with Luna more and more. Because even though the dog was struggling, Grace could still feel how much love Luna had to give. The desire to keep Luna increased every day. However, this also brought some difficulties along with it, because Grace already lived in a small apartment and barely had the money to support herself. It would be a real struggle to give Luna the life she deserved. Not to mention the puppies Luna was expecting. There was no way Grace could handle taking care of so many dogs. But she cared deeply for Luna and wanted to help in any way she could. However, what was she going to do with the puppies? Managing things with just Luna seemed feasible, but adding the puppies was a different story. Grace was hoping that she would be granted some more time to make a decision about all of this. But this was sadly not the case. The puppies were coming, and soon. That night, Luna went into labor. Grace had been hoping that when it eventually happened, it would at least be during the daytime, but exactly in line with all the other bad luck she'd experienced recently. Luna went into labor at 2 in the morning. Grace's hopes were unfortunately in vain. Before going to bed, Grace put a baby monitor in the dog pen with Luna so she would hopefully be awoken by Luna's cries when she went into labor. She knew the time was coming soon, but she couldn't stay awake 24/7 waiting for it. So after she placed the monitor in the dog pen, She went to bed. Grace was naturally sound asleep at the time Luna went into labor when the baby monitor suddenly started blasting with cries next to Grace's ear. She needed a moment to realize what was going on and to know for a fact that she was awake and not dreaming or something. She'd spent too many of her last several days working to the point of complete exhaustion. Grace quickly changed into an old pair of jogging pants and a worn t-shirt before heading downstairs. Things could take a chaotic turn very fast. When she turned on the light, she was relieved to see that Luna was still in the early stages of labor. It was time for Grace to put the skills she had learned at the shelter to the test. Luna's tongue was out of her mouth, and she was breathing heavily, her whole body moving with every heave. Grace quickly went to grab some towels and a bucket of water. The whole purpose of the pen was to keep the mess contained, but that didn't mean Grace wouldn't have to work hard to keep the mess from spreading. Grace wanted to help Luna in every way she could, but also knew that this was mostly a process Luna had to go through alone. She stroked Luna's face and made it really clear that she was there for Luna, no matter what. After about half an hour of pushing, Grace finally started to see the first of the puppies. A wave of nervousness and excitement came over Grace. She still had no idea what kind of puppies Luna was going to give birth to exactly, as she had no idea what kind of dog Luna had mated with. However, she was about to find out, and the suspense was enough to have her on the edge of her seat. But Grace's excitement quickly turned into shock when Luna's first puppy was finally officially born. Those spots, that nose, those legs. Grace was questioning if this was even a dog. The puppy didn't look like any dog Grace had ever seen. It was looking a lot more like some sort of tiny baby cow. Grace had never seen a dog that looked anything like these puppies. But how could this even be possible? Dog genetics could be unpredictable at times, but the puppies should have at least some resemblance to Luna, their mother. They should definitely look more like Luna than the cows they were currently resembling. But Grace had no time to worry about that now, as there were a lot more puppies, or whatever these animals were, that needed to be brought safely into this world. Grace cleaned off the first questionable puppy and put it into a bundle of towels, so it would stay warm until it had its siblings alongside it. Luna had started pushing the next puppy out, and wouldn't you know it, it looked exactly like the first baby, and the next one did as well. Why were all the puppies looking like cows? Grace pinched herself to make sure she wasn't dreaming, but unless she was dreaming that she was dreaming, she was most certainly awake. Eventually, after the labor process of 2.5 hours, the whole litter of what should be puppies had been brought into this world. It was 4:30 in the morning, and Grace was still convinced she might be seeing things. The puppies all looked equally strange, but she wasn't dreaming. This had definitely happened. Unsure of what to do next, Grace decided to stay awake for the rest of the night to ensure all the animals survived until she could take them to the shelter in the morning. The veterinarian at the shelter would hopefully be able to explain what was happening, or at least, Grace hoped he could. As the night progressed into morning and the sun started to rise, Grace could not keep her eyes off of the strange-looking puppies. Was there actually something wrong with them? Or was she just seeing things? She really hoped the vet could give her some answers. She was also half expecting to wake up at any moment and find that this was just a dream. As soon as she reasonably could, Grace loaded Luna and the questionable puppies into her car and drove to the shelter. She was there even before the vet arrived. Grace just couldn't wait to finally get some clarity. Even though this was technically not the most important thing in that moment, what was actually most important was that Luna and the puppies were alive, and they looked healthy. The vet would first need to do a checkup to verify that Grace's assessment of their health was correct. When the vet arrived and Grace brought them in, the vet first raised an eyebrow before getting to work. The vet managed to determine that Luna was doing okay. She was still very tired and a bit dehydrated, despite Grace's best efforts. Mostly, though, she was just tired. She was going to make it through all of this just fine despite earlier worries. However, then, there was the matter of the puppies. The vet shared Grace's concern as he also thought they looked very unusual. Finally, though, he was able to figure out what had caused this. The spots were most likely because Luna had made it with a Dalmatian with dominant genes. Dog genetics could get very weird after all. As for the strange features, the strange, almost cow-like features, these could be explained by the fact that the puppies were born too early. Almost a month too early, in fact. Not everything about them had been fully developed yet. But this, of course, led to more questions. Why had Luna gone into labor so early? She now had 7 underdeveloped puppies after all. The best the vet could figure was that whatever trauma Luna had experienced while on the streets had caused her to go into labor prematurely. Despite all the care Grace had given her, the puppies being born early also meant that their health was at risk. The vet assured Grace that they could stay under his care at the shelter. Luckily, all the puppies managed to survive and develop into proper, healthy puppies. As soon as they were properly weaned and old enough, they were put up for adoption by the shelter. Every single puppy found a home in less than 2 weeks. They stopped looking like cows and developed into cute Dalmatian retrievers. While the puppies were obviously popular amongst families, Luna was an older dog who had been through a lot. Grace decided to adopt Luna and give this beautiful and special dog the life she deserved. Grace still works at the shelter, and Luna often joins her from time to time, playing with and cheering up the shelter dogs. Did you enjoy this story? Would you too have made sacrifices in the hope of saving the dog? Or would you have abandoned her? Let us know in the comments below. If you like the story, subscribe to this channel and leave a like. Today, Marta and Luna are truly an inseparable pair. Thank you so much for listening. See you in the next video. Have a great day.